Yo, Bunda. senatorial and central staff testifiers, and our listening and viewing audience. The Committee on Government Operations, Veteran Affairs, and Consumer Protection meeting for Tuesday, November 21st, 2023 is hereby called to order. As we gather for today's meeting, and before we proceed to roll call, it is amazing how swiftly this year has gone by. Here we are in the month of November and about to enter the final month of the year into next year. During this month of November, we have had several observances. One observance dear to my heart is National Caregivers Appreciation Month. Caregivers give attention and provide help to relatives. This can be both young and older person in both cases. Caregivers give their time and support to ensure their loved ones are comfortable and their daily needs are met. Those who are cared for are often in vulnerable situations that require physical, emotional, spiritual, and financial support. If you know someone who is a caregiver, be a helping hand with a meal preparation, sitting with the person they are caring for to give them time for themselves, or ask them how you may help them, whether on a weekend, weekday, or evening. I also encourage our caregivers to get connected with the Department of Health and Human Services for support and assistance as needed, to give our caregivers across the territory a big thank you for the invaluable service you provide. In most cases, the care is for elders in our community. November is also Veterans and Military Family Month. We salute our veterans and the family of our military servicemen and women. When our military personnel serve, their families are in service too. A tour of duty can include deployment and training, and can include weekends away or long hours away from home. During Veterans and Military Family Month and throughout the year, be sure to support organizations focused on contributing to the health and well-being of our military personnel and their families. We say thank you to all who have dutifully served to protect our nation's borders and freedom wherever and whenever they are called to do so. Also, this Saturday, November 25th, is Suriname Independence Day. Happy Independence Day to our Surinamese people. Also, happy Independence Day in advance to our Bajan and Dominican Republic nationals on November 30th. Both Barbados and the Dominican Republic will celebrate their Independence Day on November 30th. Finally, on November 23rd, we will observe Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is a time of reflection and, most importantly, a time to express gratitude for every good thing in our lives. While we may have challenges and different situations we deal within our lives, we all have something to be grateful for. The breath of life, food, clothes, shelter, sunshine, the rain, a job, and the beauty that surrounds us here in the Virgin Islands every day. The important people in our lives, our family and our friends. So give thanks. Share a kind word with persons you encounter, as it can bring warmth to a hurting heart. or someone who may be downtrodden. A kind word goes a long way and have a positive impact for someone in need of a positive or encouraging word. I want to take this opportunity to really say thank you to everyone, especially who celebrated birthdays this month. We have two persons in our body who's celebrating birthday this month. First is the Honorable Milton E. Potter. He celebrates his birthday today. And tomorrow is our good senator from the Island District of St. Croix, Senator Maurice James. She will be celebrating her birthday tomorrow. Madam Clerk, kindly proceed to roll call.
Senator Samuel Carrion.
Present.
Senator Carrion, present. Senator Ray Fonseca.
I'm here.
Senator Fonseca, present. Senator Alma Francis Heiliger.
Present.
Senator Francis Heiliger, present. Senator Kenneth L. Gittins. Senator Gittins, absent. Senator Javon E. James Sr. Senator James Sr., absent. Senator Carla J. Joseph.
Present.
Senator Joseph, present. Senator Milton E. Potter. Senator Potter, absent. Madam Chair, you have 4 present, 3 absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Madam Clerk, we do have a quorum. Madam Clerk, do we have any correspondences to be read into the record?
We do.
Kindly proceed with reading that correspondence into the record.
A letter dated November 21st, 2023, to the Honorable Carla J. Joseph, Chairwoman of the Committee on Government Operations, Veterans Affairs, and Consumer Protection, 35th Legislature of the Virgin Islands, Capitol Building, Charlotte, Mali, Virgin Islands, 00802. Dear Chairwoman Joseph, due to a previously scheduled commitment, I will be unable to attend today's committee meeting of the Committee on Government Operations, Veterans Affairs, and Consumer Protection. Please excuse my absence. I thank you in advance for your understanding in this matter and sincerely apologize for any inconvenience my absence may cause. Sincerely, Milton E. Potter. Madam Chair, this ends the reading of the correspondences.
Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. Madam Clerk, please proceed to read Block 1 of today's committee agenda into the record.
The Committee on Government Operations, Veterans Affairs, and Consumer Protection has scheduled a meeting for 10 a.m. on Tuesday, November 21st, 2023, in the Earl B. Otley Legislative Hall on St. Thomas. The purpose of the meeting is to receive testimony and consider the following legislative measures. In Block 1, the committee will receive testimony concerning Bill Number 35-0084, an act amending Title 11, Virgin Islands Code, Chapter 21, Section 1213, to allow businesses operating under a trade name to have the option of renewing the trade name every 2, 6, or 10-year intervals. This bill is sponsored by Senator Alma Francis Heiliger. The invited testifiers are Ms. Monica Williams Carbon, Esquire, Chief of Staff, Office of the Lieutenant Governor, Mr. John Woods, President of St. Thomas St. John Chambers of Commerce, and Ms. Denise Johannes, Director of Corporations and Trademarks of the Office of the Lieutenant Governor. Madam Chair, this ends the reading of Block 1 of today's agenda.
Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. At this time, I would like to acknowledge the presence of Minority Leader and non-committee member, the Honorable Dwayne M. DeGraff. Welcome, Senator DeGraff, to our committee meeting for today. Before we proceed with calling up the first bill on the agenda, you would note that we only have one block. Initially, we had two blocks on the agenda. However, we originally had three blocks on the agenda. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now we have two blocks. We had in block 3, bill number 35-0186. What occurred is that the primary bill sponsor, Senator Donna A. Fred Gregory, and this bill, let me just let you know, was really to dismantle the Taxi Cab Commission and establish the Division of Transportation and Taxi Cab Services within the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs. So last evening, Senator Fred Gregory, Senator Alma Francis Heiliger, Senator Marvin Blyden, Senator Fonseca, we were here in the legislative chambers and in the St. Croix conference room, Senator Maurice James, and also we had individuals who were stakeholders in this industry, including our taxi cab men and women, as well as representatives from the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs, and we had the distinct honor of to also have in attendance the Commissioner nominee for the Department of Licensing and Consumer Affairs, Ms. Natalie Hodge, as well as the Executive Director for the Virgin Islands Taxi Cab Commission, Ms. Vernice Gums, were all present with all the taxi cab men and women. So we had a very robust discussion, and based on that discussion, it was decided by the bill sponsor to pull this bill off the agenda so that we could have some further discussion and amendments to the bill. I really want to thank everyone who came out last night and stayed. We heard your comments. That's what we do as servants. We listen and we are guided by you, the people. And so I really want to congratulate and thank everyone who was in attendance, and more importantly, thank you for your contribution. Now, who speaks on behalf of the first bill on our agenda? Bill number 35-0084.
I do, Senator Alma Francis Heiliger.
Senator Francis Heiliger, kindly proceed. And you're recognized.
Thank you. Good morning to my colleagues. Good morning to the people of the territory. Good morning to the testifiers. Bill number 35-0084 offers an option. As you know, here in our territory, as business owners, when it is time to secure the name of your business or what you would like to be represented as, you have to register a trade name, which you could secure for up to 2 years, where you would have to go every 2 years and renew it. In having open and candid conversations with our Lieutenant Governor's office, I do applaud them for transitioning over to an electronic system, which I do use and I actually love. It has made my life a lot easier. And I saw this as a way of also giving more additional options to business owners who might want to secure that trade name for longer than a 2-year period. Instead of having to go every 2 years to renew, they could choose the options between 2 years, 6 years, up to 10 years maximum. I did not want to go beyond that because you never know whether a business is going to close and to potentially hold on to a name for an extended period of time. So in my research, I did see that some states did up to 5, some did up to 10. So it was a fluctuation. And I know with us here locally, we have an interesting way of when things get on the books, they stay there for 100 years. So I made necessary adjustments to go give the business owner the option. One of the things in having our conversation with the Lieutenant Governor's office, they did share with me several weeks ago about a potential cost to upgrade the system that they currently use. And they did share that amount, which I submitted an amendment to include that dollar amount. So we're going to, I'm waiting on the amendment from legal counsel, which we submitted a few weeks ago. But that aspect is going to definitely be included based on our discussions with the Lieutenant Governor's office, as well as a time certain to give them the opportunity to make these necessary changes. So I want to request and ask my colleagues to please support this piece of legislation, because it does give business owners the option to secure the name of their business for an extended period of time if they choose to just do 2 years, 6 years, or say, you know what, I'd like to do this every 10 years. It's their choice. So I look forward to the open discussion, and hopefully I will get support for this piece of legislation. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Senator Frances Heiliger. Just to address a little bit of housekeeping, Madam Clerk, kindly note on the roll call that Senator Milton Potter is excused. Milton E. Potter is excused from today's meeting. And so that brings our tally to
4 present, 2 absent, and 2 excused.
Thank you so much.
1 excused, sorry.
Thank you so much for that correction. So we have 4 present, 1 excused, and 2 absent. Thank you so much. At this time, we have some testifiers who are in the chambers prepared to testify on this bill. First, I would like to recognize Ms. Denise Johannes, the Director of the Division of Corporation and Trademarks with the Office of the Lieutenant Governor. Good day, Ms. Johannes, and welcome.
Morning, Senator.
And I see that you have another person next to you, and I'm trusting that person is also from the Office of the Lieutenant Governor. Kindly indicate your name for the record.
Good morning, Senator. My name is Nadia Harrigan. I'm Legal Counsel, Office of the Lieutenant Governor.
Okay, so welcome, Ms. Harrigan, to the Committee on Government Operations, Veteran Affairs, and Consumer Protection. We have one testimony that is being read into the record from the Office of the Governor. Office of the Lieutenant Governor. Okay, so Ms. Johannes?
Yes.
Kindly proceed with reading your testimony into the record.
Certainly, Senator. Good morning, Committee Chairperson, the Honorable Carla J. Joseph, and the honorable members of the 35th Legislature of the Virgin Islands Committee on Government Operations, Veterans Affairs, and Consumer Protection, and other senators present today, as well as the viewing and listening audiences. I am Denise Johannes, the Director of the Division of Corporations and Trademarks of the Office of the Lieutenant Governor, under the leadership of the Honorable Tregenza A. Roach, Esquire. I appear before you today to present testimony on Bill number 35-0084, an act amending Title 11 of the Virgin Islands Code, Chapter 21, Section 1213, to allow businesses operating under a trade name to have the option of renewing a trade name every 2, 6, or 10-year intervals. That is sponsored by Senator Alma Frances Heiliger. Today, I am accompanied in the legislative chambers by Nadia Harrigan, Esquire, Legal Counsel to the Lieutenant Governor, and the Office of the Lieutenant Governor, and Laura Bedminster, Assistant Director of the Division of Corporations and Trademarks. The Lieutenant Governor and the Office of the Lieutenant Governor are neither for or against Bill number 35-0084 for trade name owners having the option of renewing their trade name every 2, 6, or 10 years intervals. However, we are concerned that there will be a cost to implement this change if the bill is passed. In accordance with the requirements contained in the existing statute, the division's online catalyst system currently coded to allow trade name owners to renew their registration every 2 years. Our system contractor estimates that it will take 200 hours to implement the proposed change in renewal intervals at a cost of $50,000. Therefore, we kindly request that funding be appropriated to cover the cost of the changes necessary for the catalyst system to accommodate the proposed changes should the bill become law. We further request a delayed effective date for the implementation of the changes to allow for the system contractor to update the catalyst coding and the staff of the Division of Corporations and Trademarks to perform user acceptance testing for the changes. The proposed change will affect over 6,807 trade name registrations that are on file with the Office of the Lieutenant Governor. Trade name owners and filers receive and will continue to receive electronic email reminders of their upcoming renewal dates, which aids the Office of the Lieutenant Governor with the collection of the renewal fees that generate revenue for the government of the Virgin Islands. Madam Chairperson, I conclude my testimony relative to Bill number 35-0084, an act amending Title 11, Virgin Islands Code, Chapter 21, Section 1213, to allow businesses operating under a trade name to have the option of renewing the trade name every 2, 6, or 10 years intervals. We are prepared to receive any questions. Thank you for the opportunity to come before this body to submit my presentation.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Johannes. I just want to note that we had invited Mr. John Woods, the president of the St. Thomas St. John Chamber of Commerce, to also testify on this measure. We did not get any written response from them, and we were hoping, since that is part of the business community and they will be affected by this piece of legislation, that we would have been able to have something written or for them to testify whether they were in support or not of the measure. But they were given an opportunity to do so. Colleagues, we have heard the testimony from the Office of the Lieutenant Governor, who has jurisdiction over this piece of legislation and to implement. We will now move forward with one round of 3 minutes. First, I'll recognize Senator Ray Fonseca. Senator Fonseca, you are recognized for your 3 minutes.
Yes, thank you, and pleasant good morning to the testifiers. We are definitely in support of Bill number 35-0084 to allow the trade name owners to do the 2, 6, and 10-year renewals. But, you know, Madam Chair, I have to discuss one important matter that was actually on the agenda today, but we had a meeting yesterday where, as you mentioned, we met with the taxi industry, the stakeholders, to discuss many important issues concerning the taxi industry and the taxi cab commission. And I listened attentively to the input from the drivers, and it was a full house. I think, Madam Chair, you and I counted it. I think I count about 81. I don't know if it was true. More or less, yes. And we had representatives from East End Taxi, we had Best Taxi, we had Kelly Taxi, we heard from St. Thomas Taxi Association, VI Taxi, Ambassadors Taxi, Virgin Taxi, Champion Taxi, and others. It was so encouraging that it was a full house. I mean, we had to even put chairs in the hallway to accommodate some of the folks, And after listening to all the testimony, Madam Chair, I am convinced the current taxi cab commission is not executing its duties with the due diligence that would solve the many issues of the commission. As a matter of fact, I would even go and say that it is my opinion the commission does not effectively serve the needs of the transportation, taxi cab, and automobile for hire industry. But there was a very good ending to the meeting because the director actually spoke. She sat right in the back there by media and she spoke. I recorded it because this was the first time that in this legislative body I heard her voice, and she's been here about 3 or 4 times. So, Madam Chair, I am very encouraged that now at least we have a director that we can communicate with the language. So I wanted to go quickly to the testimony here, Ms. Johannes. You said that it would have a fee and there would be some user acceptance training. Can you give me the details? And you mentioned there was 6,807 trade name registrations in the VI. Wow, that's incredible. Can you give me that explanation on the user acceptance training and the cost?
Okay. Thank you, Senator. First and foremost, with any system that is implemented, our contractor codes the system with the new changes. Then the division, the staff, will be going through testing. So we are going to test to see whether or not the coding is correct. And so that if a user has to select the choice of either 2, 6, or 10, they're able to get that certificate and the renewal certificate, and it says on there that the certificate, the trade name is renewed for 2 years, 6 years, 10 years. We also have to look at the reminders that will happen as well, because they do happen 6 months, 3 months, and 1 month from the anniversary date. So that's the type of intricacies that we are checking for functionality with the user acceptance testing.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. You can answer the other question with the cost on the chair's time, if I may be permitted.
You may proceed with answering the senator's question, Director.
Thank you, Senator. In reference to the cost, with everything and being that we already have a functioning system, there is going to take some time in order for our contractor to develop the coding so that they can implement it in a test environment before they load it into product. And there is a specific amount of hours that are going to be needed because they're not only going to be touching the implementation of the radio buttons for a person to select 2, 6, or 10 years. But then, once it's selected, the system has to be able to generate the proper correspondence. So one of the things that happen with the trade name renewals, that doesn't come into our work queue for processing. Once the payment is received, the customer or the filer immediately gets the certificate. So this is why it can take up to 200 hours of coding. One of the things that we have experienced when we're dealing with coding as well is that once you're adding something to a system that doesn't exist, it may create a glitch in another area. So we want to make certain that the functionality is correct, and that's why it's estimated at the $50,000.
Blessings. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. And that was a very good question to lead into the question that I had. Would this new system and this new type of coding to actually implement this legislation affect the ability for other persons to continue, for your customers to continue to put in whatever their selection would be? Or you would have to put a pause on this entire portion of your operation, your electronic online operation, which I may add is very efficient?
Actually, we will not have to put a pause on it. This is why it's important for us to build the code in a test environment and make certain that it's working in the test environment first before it is deployed into product. Usually, we would pick a day where it's least going to affect filers. So this is also why we're asking for a delayed effective date as well. For the implementation of it, to give our contractor the ability to set on what is the best time to put it in. Usually, we would put it in like on a Friday, late in the night, so that the least, that's why we have the least users on the system. So customers would not see a major interruption. They might have a message that would come up and say that the Catalyst system is not available momentarily, but as soon as it's loaded into product, it becomes available and it's functional, and all customers are able to renew.
Okay, thank you so much for giving that detailed explanation so that we, not only we here in the chambers, but the listening audience and the business community can clearly understand that there wouldn't be any pause and there wouldn't be any major interruption in persons' ability actually to renew their or even access the online portal. This time, I'd like to recognize Senator DeGraff. You're recognized for your 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, testifiers, all viewing, listening, and present.
Good morning.
200 hours estimated about 30 days, a month?
I don't understand your question, Senator.
You say it would take about 200 hours of putting the whole system together to have it operational.
That would be the coding effect
Correct.
of it. And basically, they have a timeline. Our contractor has a timeline by which they have a copy of the legislation, and then they start to build the code. There are also some internal things, like this would be considered like a change order, and that's something materially that the Lieutenant Governor's office would have to approve before it goes into production, into the test environment, and then finally into the production, the live system.
Right. So we give you the $50,000. You give your contractor the mandate. 200 hours, we should have a product.
Yes.
Basically. Okay, good. So right now, on a yearly basis, what do we collect in terms of revenues as it stands right now?
If every trade name is renewed, we have 6,000, we have more than 6,800.
No, but we can't do it that way. I'm just saying, based on, if 6,800 people renew every year, we make X amount of money off of that. I get that. But I'm just saying, on an annual basis, what are you seeing right now in terms of the revenue generated as it stands?
That information I do not
You don't
have
have?
with
Okay.
me right now because we have trade names that are renewed on even and
Right.
odd years.
Exactly.
And at the same time, we do have entities that are coming online as well.
Correct.
So that number fluctuates.
Right.
And not every trade name holder renews. There may be a delay where they may renew it in an odd year. So for example, any trade name that is due in 2024, they have a 6-month email reminder that they have received. So some of them have already paid right now in 2023 versus 2024.
Okay, good. And that's what I say. I get that because now in terms of, okay, we are going to invest 50,000. Now, what would you see as to what this bill is trying to do in 6 years and the 300 and 5 years at what, 500? What do you see in terms of revenue generating? Would we be able to get back our return on our investment if we go this route after paying you out the $50,000 to get the system going? Would it be a plus in that aspect?
Yes, sir. From the time that the system has been launched, the Division of Corporations and Trademarks of the Office of the Lieutenant Governor has consistently seen an increase in the revenue collections.
Okay.
And every budget cycle, we are actually projecting higher, and we are also meeting and sometimes exceeding those targets.
Okay, so in closing, so because you don't, you're not for or against, on if the bill passes, the revenue goes up
It will go up in a fiscal year.
in a fiscal year, correct? Okay, so I could see the positives in it. And what would be the downfall to passing the bill, as you see it?
Time.
If, that's my last question, but I don't want to put you on the spot as to your personal feeling in terms of for the people of the Virgin Islands, the government as a whole. What do you see as the downfall from that position as director, not your personal feeling, to put you in a spot?
Well, Senator, I really don't see a downside. Filers are required to comply with the law, and they have the opportunity to choose when they would like to pay when it comes to the renewals. So if you're looking at it, it will just determine whether you will get, let's say, if a person chooses 6 years versus every 2 years, you would be getting the $300 in the first fiscal year
Right.
versus $100 every 2 years over 3 consecutive fiscal years. So the government will get what is required by law. It's just giving the filer the option to select how they would like to manage the payment to the government.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the time.
Thank you so much, Senator DeGraff, because that was leading me into a question that I think was very critical to this consideration and our discussion today relative to this bill. Have you done a full analysis of the fiscal impact? And based on your response to Senator DeGraff, it seems that fiscally, because the amount is going to be the same, there's not going to be a shift. We're going to have maybe a year when we have an increase because they've paid in advance rather than paying in that same year that their trademark will be renewed. Is that basically what you're going to see.
Exactly. You would just see a shifting of when the payment will come in depending on the fiscal year.
Okay, so that doesn't touch necessarily individuals who are just for the first time going to submit an application for a trademark.
A trademark is different to a trade name. The trade name is business name, and once a filer submits the application to the Lieutenant Governor's office, it will automatically come up for the first 2-year renewal period. It is at that point the filer will have the opportunity to select 2, 6, or 10 years. So it's not off at inception that they're selecting the renewal period. So it's after the first 2 years they will be able to select.
Okay, so that clarifies it. Now, Senator DeGraft also asked a question relative to the amount of funding that was received for the renewal of the trade names for, let's say, one fiscal year 2023. Would you be able to supply the committee with that information? Or you should have it at your fingertips. I know how very thorough you are, Ms. Johannes. And I know before the end of this, I'm very confident before the end of this meeting, you will be able to send us at least an email indicating how much money that this division regarding the trade name, this portion and division have been able to generate in revenues for fiscal year 2023, because I'm certain that is what Senator DeGraff was going at, but he didn't ask it directly, so I'm asking it directly. Okay?
Yes, Senator. When I get back to my office, I'll provide the information.
And I will be
through
sure
the chair.
I will be sure to circulate it. At this time, I'd like to recognize Senator Samuel Carrion for his 3 minutes. Senator Carrion, you may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning to you and my colleagues, and good morning to the testifiers.
Good morning.
Great, and thank you, Ms. Johannes, Director, for your testimony in this regard. Now, this is one of those situations where the testifier doesn't speak in favor or against, so you're neutral in this position. But let me ask you, do you foresee any issues? What would you say would be the pros of implementing this legislation, and if there are any cons, any things that you're concerned about?
From the perspective of the office, we are into the collection of fees. We do have a mechanism by providing email reminders to filers when items are coming due or past due. We do have a very effective online catalyst system that is available 24 hours, 7 days a week. And I don't see any pros or cons for the legislation. The option that is provided, the person is not an increase of the trademark, I should say the trade name renewal fee. If a person selects 2 years, they're paying $100. If they select 6 years, they're paying $300. They would pay $300 over a 6-year interval. Likewise with the 10, with them paying $500. So there's not a cost difference to the filer. It's just the ability to collect the fees as implemented by law.
So what would you say is the benefit of this legislation?
It's not a benefit to the office of the lieutenant governor, and that is something I cannot speak for the filers. It's just providing them with an option. We do have some filers that have in the past asked, why can't we give you all of the renewals at one time? But that is something that would be a benefit to the filers, not necessarily the office of the lieutenant governor. And we at the Division of Trademarks and Corporations and Trademarks do not advocate one way or the other on behalf of the filer. Our function is to uphold the laws of the Virgin Islands, and that's what we seek to do.
Very well. I think you presented that very well.
Thank you.
Now, are there any penalties for individuals that don't renew?
Yes, Senator, there is a $25 late fee that we are currently charging. So let's take a cycle of a trade name. So it comes into our office, let's say, in 2021, and is scheduled for renewal in 2023. So 6 months out, the filer will get an email reminder that your trade name renewal is coming due. If no action is taken, another reminder is sent 3 months out from the anniversary date of the second year. If no action, 1 month out. Once the anniversary date of the second year has lapsed, the filer would get a notice letting them know that their trade name has renewal is past due. The status of it changes from current to registered, and we give filers a 6-month period by which for them to submit the trade name renewal for a late fee of $25. So they pay $125. After the 6-month period and the name is not renewed, it becomes available to the next filer that submits an application and pays the registration fee.
Can you, through the chair, submit to this committee the amount for 2022 in penalties, maybe for the last 3 years? I don't know if you have that number at hand, at least for the last fiscal year, to have an idea of what the government is receiving in regards to penalties. And lastly, I think my time has been called. From time to time, does the office waive penalties?
Senator, we do not have the ability by statute to waive no type of penalties and interest.
Very well. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Senator Carrion. Madam Clerk, please, 3 minutes on the clock for me. I want to ask you, because you're stating in your testimony, Ms. Johannes, it's going to cost us $50,000 to code electronically this so we can implement this legislation. What is the contract, does it say for the catalyst? The catalyst system, the vendor isn't required to do updates, because this will be more so an update. They are not required under their current contract with the Lieutenant Governor's office, with the government, to do updates to the system?
Actually, Senator, they are. However, this legislation would be considered out of scope. We have a contract that we're in project mode, and we also have maintenance and support. We are right now with our Catalyst system getting ready to launch the trademark module to our system, and we are also beginning the talks about implementing the notary services because we have a fixed cost contract with a 5-year maintenance and support.
And what is the amount of your contract? And what's the name of the vendor who provides the coding for this, for your Catalyst system?
The name of the vendor is Foster Moore US LLC. Second, our first contract was about 6.7 when we launched the system back.
6.7 million?
That is correct.
Okay.
The actual project part of it, and I'm doing this from off the top of my memory, so I could probably give you the better figures. It was 5 point something as far as the project, and then the remainder was the maintenance. And that was executed on March 17th of 2016. We launched the system in August 31st of 2018. Since then, we have done an amendment for 1.3 million that we are currently implementing as we speak. And that one is to provide the exempt LLCs, which we launched in December of 2022. Trademarks, which we're getting ready to launch, and then notary services.
Okay, so that would take care of those 3 added different types of services. And the notary services for electronic filing, I'm guessing that's what it is. Our legislative body passed some law in the 34th legislature. So that is all part of what you're going to be implementing.
I will have Attorney Harrigan speak to the notary component.
Good morning, Nadia Harrigan, Legal Counsel, Office of the Governor. Yes, Senator. We will be launching an electronic notary application, and that's also based on the legislation by this honorable body.
Yes, and I actually sponsored, well, one of the sponsors of that piece of legislation. So I'm always looking forward to see when our legislations are implemented by the executive branch. And I'm glad to hear that it's going to be rolling out very soon.
Well, we just met actually last week. They were here in person to discuss the details of how the module will work. So
Okay.
we're in the process of working on it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
At this time, the chair would recognize the bill's point of information, Senator Fonseca.
Yes, thank you so kindly, Madam Chair. Ms. Johannes, real quickly, how many vacant positions do you have, and do you have any positions that you do not intend to fill in your budget?
Senator, I can tell you my vacant positions, but as far as if I intend to fill, that is a question I would reserve for my chief of staff. But the 2 vacancies that I currently have are the franchise tax auditor position, and we are looking for a district manager, a district supervisor for the St. Croix Island District.
Okay. Have you received recently any notice of a person that intends to retire? And if you have, are you intending to fill that position?
I cannot speak to that, Senator. That function is handled in our Division of Administration. And I could only tell you, as it pertains to the Division of Corporations and Trademarks, that I do not have any employees that are of retirement
Thank you kindly, Madam
Age.
Chair.
or consideration.
Thank you so much, Senator Fonseca, and thank you, Ms. Johannes, for your responses. At this time, we'll recognize the bill's sponsor, Senator Francis Heiliger. You're recognized.
Good afternoon. Well, is it still morning? Good morning once again. to the people of the territory and the testifiers. My quick question has to do with the time needed. As I stated earlier, I did submit several weeks ago an amendment for the $50,000, specifically the number to be included in the bill. But when it came to adding in a specific time frame, I did a lot for time for coding, time for testing, time for negotiating. I did all of that, and I said it based on the amendment that I requested for it to be done within 180 days, roughly 6 months. Do you think that is more than adequate time to get this completed?
Yes, Senator.
Okay. That was my major question, because I wanted to make sure with my amendments that we accommodated what was necessary to make this accomplished. For me, again, this is to assist with helping business owners in dealing with their options out here. So I hope that my colleagues do support this piece of legislation. Once it is my hope to try to get it amended right here today after the second block when we go to voting, and those updates should be included if it's passed upon here by my fellow colleagues. So thank everyone for sharing their thoughts and asking their questions, and for your testimony today. And at the appropriate time, we will cast a vote. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Senator Francis Heiliger. At this time, I will allow our testifiers to place on the record their 30 seconds closing remark. Colleagues, we are going to delay voting on this measure until the end of Block 2, which will be coming up shortly. So just be prepared. We have a very thin quorum today, so I'm hoping that all who are present will remain present so we could marshal these two pieces of legislations either out of committee or they remain in committee, but that we act on them on a whole. Director Johannes, you are recognized for your 30-second closing remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share our thoughts professionally about the amendment to afford trade name holders another option or options to consider for the renewal period. And also thank you to the staff of the Division of Corporations and Trademarks of the Office of the Lieutenant Governor. The ladies of that division work hard to serve you, and we want to wish everyone a very blessed Thanksgiving season, Christmas, and a prosperous 2024, since I'm not expecting that I would have to come back before. Blessings for the new year. Thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Johannes, and every blessings to you, your staff, and the family at the Division of Corporations and Trademarks, and the Lieutenant Governor's Office as a whole. Attorney Harrigan, you're recognized for your 30 seconds closing remarks.
Thank you, Senator, and this body for having us. We really do appreciate that Senator Heiliger reached out to us prior to us coming here and submitting the legislation so that we can provide our input. I think it's very helpful, and we were able to discuss that there would be a cost associated with adding these changes to our system. So we really appreciate having those discussions beforehand as opposed to having it in front of this honorable body. And we wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you so much, Attorney Harrigan, and we convey the same to you. Colleagues, we're going to take a 10 minutes recess, and I want to really 3 minutes, 30 minutes recess. And I want to thank the testifiers for being here today. And you are released from your testimony before the Committee on Government Operations, Veteran Affairs, and Consumer Protection. The committee stands in recess for 30 minutes.
the system.
And we are back on the record. Madam Clerk, I understand that you have received some additional correspondences.
Yes.
Kindly read those correspondences into the record at this time.
A letter dated November 20th, 2023, to the Honorable Carla J. Joseph, Senator of the Legislature of the Virgin Islands, Capitol Building, St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, 00802. Dear Senator Joseph, please excuse my absence from the November 21st, 2023 meeting of the Committee on Government Operations, Veterans Affairs, and Consumer Protection. I trust your office will forward me any additional information provided during this meeting, and I thank you in advance for your understanding. Sincerely, Kenneth L. Gittins, Senator. Madam Chair, this ends the reading of the correspondences.
Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. Kindly note for the record that Senator Kenneth Gittins is excused from today's meeting. Madam Clerk, please proceed with reading into the record Block 2 of today's agenda.
Block 2. The committee will receive testimony concerning Bill Number 35-0109, an act honoring and commending the late Corporal Kendall Emmanuel George posthumously for his service as a corporal in the United States Marine Corps in the Vietnam War, and for making the ultimate sacrifice to preserve democracy and to keep America and his Virgin Islands homeland safe. Naming Route 107 from Coral Bay to Lameshore Bay, St. John. Kendall Emmanuel George Drive, South. And appropriating $10,000 to the Department of Public Works for signage at Kendall Emmanuel George Drive and for other related purposes. This bill is sponsored by Senator Dwayne M. DeGraff. The invited testifiers are Mr. Patrick Farrell, Director of the Virgin Islands Veterans Affairs, Mr. Harry Daniel, Commander of the American Legion Post 131, the Honorable Derek Gabriel, Commissioner, Department of Public Works, Mr. Henry A. Powell, sibling, Ms. Geneva Paris, sibling, Mrs. Barbara Dalmeda Thompson, cousin, and Mr. Alvis Christian Sr., cousin. Madam Chair, this ends the reading of today's agenda.
Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. Who speaks on behalf of Bill number 35-0109?
I do, Madam Chair.
Senator Dwayne M. DeGraff, you are recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, testifiers, all viewing, listening, and present. Bill number 35-0109, an act honoring and commending the late Corporal Kendall Emmanuel George posthumously for his service as a corporal in the United States Marine Corps in the Vietnam War and for making the ultimate sacrifice to preserve democracy and to keep America and his Virgin Islands homeland safe, naming Route 107 from Coral Bay to Lameshore Bay, St. John, Kendall Emmanuel George Drive, South, and appropriating $10,000 to the Department of Public Works for signage at Kendall Emmanuel George Drive and for other related purposes. Today, I am as excited and honored as the family. It is an honor for me to be, first of all, I'd like to start up, Madam Chair, when you opened up with your kind words in regards to veterans, thank you on behalf of my family and the veterans in the Virgin Islands and around the world, period. Mr. George served, we may ask, what has he done? In the short title says, the ultimate sacrifice. He lost his life to preserve democracy, to keep America and the Virgin Islands homeland safe. You need to state no more. It's funny that his birthday, not funny, it is so fitting that his birthday is November 11th, Veterans Day, and he joined the illustrious Marine Corps, which the birthday of the Marine Corps is actually November 10th. So it is a great honor to name the road and being on St. John, to make sure that we didn't forget, and I won't forget any veterans from St. John or from any one of the Virgin Islands. So I'm honored to present this bill 35-0109, and I'm not a member of the committee, and ask the colleagues to support this bill, and we move it forward until it becomes law. Thank you for the time, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Senator DeGraff. This morning, we have joining us several testifiers, and I will like you to recognize each of you and ask you to state your names for the record. We will begin on my far left, which will be your right, with the gentleman right here, Director Farrell. A pleasant good morning.
Good morning, Director Farrell, Director of the Virgin Islands Office of Veterans Affairs.
And the lady?
Jennifer Paris, sibling of Kendall Emmanuel George.
Good morning and welcome.
Thank you.
Gentlemen?
Good morning to everyone. My name is Henry A. Powell. I am the younger brother of Kendall E. George.
Thank you, and good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Alvis Christian, cousin to Kendall.
Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Senator Harry Daniel, commander of the American Legion Post 131 on St. John.
Good morning and welcome. It is our distinct pleasure to welcome all of you, especially the veterans in the House, to this august body and these proceedings, really to honor one of our very own. I would like to now ask Director Patrick Farrell to kindly proceed with reading your testimony into the record.
Honorable Carla J. Joseph, Chairman of the Committee on Government Operations, Veterans Affairs and Consumer Protection, other senators of the 35th Legislature of the Virgin Islands of the United States, all that are present, listening via radio or viewing via the legislature's Legit TV. Pleasant good day to you. Additional greetings to my comrades in and out of uniform, known to you as the veterans of this beloved territory. Thank you once again for your service to country. Last but never least, to the staff of the Virgin Islands Office of Veterans Affairs, to whom I refer to as the pillars of this agency, Ms. Daniel, Ms. Frederick, Ms. Gordon, and Ms. Hewitt. Thank you for your service to our territory's veterans. I am Patrick D. Farrell, your Director of the Virgin Islands Office of Veterans Affairs. Today, it is my pleasure to provide testimony on Bill number 35-0109, an act honoring and commending the late Corporal Kendall Emmanuel George posthumously for his service as a corporal in the United States Marine Corps in the Vietnam War, and for making the ultimate sacrifice to preserve democracy and to keep America and his Virgin Islands homeland safe. Naming Route 107 from Coral Bay to Lambshore Bay, St. John, the Kendall Emmanuel George Drive South, and appropriating $10,000 to the Department of Public Works for signage at Kendall Emmanuel George Drive and for other related purposes. I am present today to lend my unwavering support to the proposed legislation honoring the late Corporal Kendall Emmanuel George. This esteemed Marine, who made the ultimate sacrifice during the Vietnam War, exemplified courage, dedication, and a profound commitment to preserving the ideals of democracy. As we contemplate this legislation, let us not only recognize Kendall Emmanuel George's military service, but also celebrate his enduring legacy as a symbol of courage and commitment. By approving this proposal, we affirm our collective gratitude for those who have given their all in service to our nation. Corporal George's selfless service in the United States Marine Corps is a testament to his love for both America and his homeland, the Virgin Islands of the United States. As we consider naming Route number 107 from Coral Bay to Lambshore Bay, St. John, the Kendall Emmanuel George Drive South, we will be embarking on a significant tribute to a hero whose bravery echoes through the archives of history. It is fitting and a lasting tribute to a man who, in the face of adversity, stood firm in the defense of our democracy. We will not only be paying homage to a fallen soldier, but we will also be reinforcing the values of sacrifice, patriotism, and unity that form the core of our society. I extend my deepest gratitude to the family members of Corporal Kendall Emmanuel George. Their unwavering support, resilience, and enduring love have been the foundation of Corporal George's legacy. As we honor him through this legislation, I find it fitting that we also acknowledge the sacrifices made by his family, who have borne the weight of his absence with grace and strength. The appropriation of $10,000 to the Department of Public Works for signage at the Kendall Emmanuel George Drive is a small yet impactful investment in preserving the memory of a true Virgin Islands hero. These signs will serve as a daily reminder to all who traverse this route, prompting reflection on the sacrifices made to ensure the freedoms we hold dear. I humbly ask that each member of this institution lend their support to this legislation, ensuring that Corporal Kendall E. George's name is forever etched into the landscape of our Virgin Islands. Chairman Joseph, distinguished members of the Committee on Government Operations, Veterans Affairs, and Consumer Protection, other senators of the 35th Legislature of the Virgin Islands of the United States, the Virgin Islands Office of Veterans Affairs respect the important work that you have done and continue to do to enhance the quality of life and well-being of our territory's veterans and their families. With your help and continued support, we can ensure our veterans and their needs continue to be adequately resourced and remain a priority. I will remain available for any questions relating to this matter. Thank you for allowing me to have my testimony read into the record today.
And thank you so much, Director Farrell, for presenting your testimony here in the chambers in person. Now I will recognize Ms. Geneva Paris and give you the opportunity to read into the record your testimony on this bill.
Good morning, all. It's a pleasure to be here this morning on behalf of my brothers honoring. I will read. Dear Honorable Senator Carla J. Joseph, greetings in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Thank you, Senator Carla Joseph, and entire Committee on Government Operations, Veterans Affairs, and Consumer Protection for this opportunity to testify about renaming Route 107 to Kendall E. George Drive. Although many years have passed, the memory of my beloved brother untimely passing remains etched in my heart. My brother, affectionately known as Ken, was the kindest, most respectful, most jovial person I have known, not in my entire life, but known at that point. Oh, I'm writing something that's not in here, I'm sorry. Especially to the elders and the authorities. My family grew up on the island of St. John at Estate Hard Labor, located on the south side of the island. My two brothers, Kendall, now deceased, and Henry, and myself attended the Harrisman School and then on to Benjamin Franklin School, now currently known as Guy Benjamin School, then on to Charlotte Amalie High School, St. Thomas. As time and life progressed, my brother Kendall enlisted in the Marines and achieved the rank of corporal and fought in the Vietnam War for our country and for our countrymen here in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Every year, as the United States commemorate our veterans, and we thank and honor them for their service in protecting our country, I'm reminded of my personal loss. Veterans Day in itself is huge, but it was also Ken's Earth Day, the day he was born. In closing, once again, thank you, Senator Carla Joseph and the Committee of Government Operations, Veteran Affairs, and Consumer Protection for this opportunity to express my memories and to testify that I approve and encourage renaming of Route 107 to Kendall E. George Drive in my brother's honor and memory for his ultimate sacrifice for our country. Thank you.
And thank you so much, Ms. Paris, for that very supportive testimony. Now the chair would like to recognize another sibling of Corporal Kendall George, Mr. Henry A. Powell. You are recognized to read your testimony into the record. Kindly proceed.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Senator. Good day to all the honorable members of the 35th Legislature and to the Committee on Government Operations, Veterans Affairs, and Consumer Protection, chaired by the Honorable Senator Carla Joseph, and to the general public. Today has been a long time hoped for. I am most grateful to my family for encouraging me to keep on trying until we saw this day. To my comrades of the American Legion Post 131, headed by our commander, Harry Daniel, for helping in the initiation process. And most of all, to Senator Dwayne M. DeGraff and his staff for their guidance in the drafting and submittal of what is now Bill number 35-0109. If I missed anyone that we spoke to along the way that had any input, my gratitude is extended to them, to you as well. As I have spoken to a few people over the years about this matter. My brother was a small frame man, 5'7", about 155 pounds, but big at heart and gutsy. He was a leader and had a calm demeanor when giving instructions, so it was easy to work with him. He was also not too judgmental. He would give you the benefit of the doubt that you could do better if you came up short of your goal. So most of his friends didn't mind hanging around with him. He was a helpful man, always willing to lend a hand. He was a brave man, eager to try anything. A man dedicated to his duty and his mission, whatever it was. He was a man of honor. His word could be trusted. He was also a man of integrity. He will not give you a 6 for a 9. An honest man. He was also a loyal man. I think that's why he joined the Marine Corps, because he thought that the Brotherhood of the Marines was that close-knit and that they were there for each other. And finally, he was a man of persistence. He would not quit until the job was done. He did have an area of concern to me as his brother, and that was his hearing was not 100%. But he did not let that deter him from being a Marine. He loved what he was doing and gave his all, his life, for the love of country and his homeland, these U.S. Virgin Islands. This is who he was. All else is cited in the bill. Thank you for allowing me to testify on his behalf today. And I hope that this bill will go through. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Powell, for painting such a very vivid picture of your late brother's character. It's really clear of the person he was, and I'm sure you and your family have a strong legacy of that level of character. Now I'd like to recognize Mr. Alvis Christian Sr., cousin, for his testimony on this bill. Mr. Christian, you're recognized.
Good morning, Honorable Carla Joseph, other members of the Committee on Government Operations, Veterans Affairs, and Consumer Protection, all senators and staff, everyone present, viewing and listening to this committee hearing. My name is Alvis Christian Sr., and I'm here to offer testimony in support of my cousin, Kendall E. George, who is being considered for renaming Route 107 from Coral Bay to Lamy Shore, St. John, the Kendall Emmanuel George Drive. Ken, as he was affectionately called, was a community person who deeply cared for and always spoke up in defense of his beloved community of St. John. He was also the person that kept the family together. He cooked, he hunted, he fished, and was sports-oriented. He also had a great sense of business as he operated his mother, Miss Ina George, shop in John's Folly, Coral Bay, St. John. He was kind, considerate, but firm. He stood his ground when it mattered. However, he was always respected by both the young and the old. I am grateful that while he was in the service, he defended the United States and this territory to the best of his ability. Thanks to the director and the persons of Post 131 for seeing this bill through to the end. I am grateful that the bill sponsor, Senator DeGraff, and this committee saw fit to honor Ken in this way. Ken is truly missed by his family and friends, and this is a great way of keeping his memory alive. Thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to a favorable vote as this bill makes its way to the full body.
And thank you so much, Mr. Christian. Again, you painted we had a testimony from Mr. Powell, and now you painting a very clear picture of the character of the man who is labeled on this bill to be honored and for the route to be placed and named in his honor. At this time, I would like to recognize Mr. Harry Daniel, Commander, American Legion Post 131, to present and read your testimony into the record. Mr. Daniel?
Good morning, Senator. Good morning, Honorable Senator Carla J. Joseph, Chair, Committee on Government Operations, Veterans Affairs, and Consumer Protection, members of the committee, and the viewing and listening audience. I am Harry Daniel, Commander of the American Legion, Vigo Esau, Post 131 of St. John. Our post is the voice of our veterans on the island, seeking to pass on information to all of us. Our post has been in existence for more than 30 years, working with the other posts in the Virgin Islands, along with the support of the Office of Veterans Affairs. I'm here in support of Bill number 35-0109, an act honoring and commending the late Corporal Kendall Emmanuel George posthumously for his service as a corporal in the United States Marine Corps in Vietnam, and to remain Route 107 from Coral Bay to La Michelle Bay, St. John, as the Kendall Emmanuel George Drive. Corporal George was one of the two St. John natives who made the ultimate sacrifice to protect and preserve the democracy to keep America and the Virgin Islands free and safe. The other veteran was the late Vigo Esau, to whom our post is named after. We were hoping that we could have gotten them both honored at the same time, but we will continue to work toward this becoming a reality. We are ever grateful to Senator Dwayne DeGraff and his staff for working with us with this bill. We also visited the site and spoke with some of the members of the Coral Bay community about our plans. We also spoke about getting the Veterans Circle project completed in Cruz Bay as soon as possible. We hope that with the continued support of the Office of Senator DeGraff and your committee, we can get other projects for veterans on St. John and the Virgin Islands changed with better benefits for all. Thank you.
And thank you, Commander Daniel. Just want to make sure I give you your proper handle, Commander Daniel, for your testimony and for all that you do for the St. John veterans, especially on Veterans Day and Memorial Day. I really want to commend you publicly in this forum, and I always say that I do and really am thankful for the work you and all of the veterans have done and continue to do for on behalf of our people. We have two testimonies that will be read into the record. Madam Clerk, kindly proceed with reading the testimony submitted by Honorable Derek Gabriel, Commissioner of the Department of Public Works, and then also the testimony submitted by Mrs. Barbara Maida Thompson, cousin of Corporal Kenneth George.
A letter dated November 17th, 2023, to the Honorable Carla J. Joseph, Chairwoman of the Committee on Government Operations, Veterans Affairs, and Consumer Protection, 35th Legislature of the Virgin Islands, Capitol Building, St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, 00802. Dear Senator Joseph, thank you for the opportunity to receive and comment on the proposed legislation to posthumously name Route 107 from Coral Bay to La Michelle Bay, St. John, the Kendall Emmanuel Drive, and to appropriate $10,000 to the department for the appropriate signage. Unfortunately, I'm unavailable to attend the hearing due to previously scheduled arrangements. The department has no objections to the naming of the above-mentioned read in the name of Corporal Kendall Emmanuel George. I believe naming roads after prominent Virgin Islanders serve to teach current and future generations of their significant contribution, both locally and abroad, and to perpetually honor him will. While I cannot speak to the funding source, the amount appropriated for the signage should be sufficient. Thank you again for the opportunity to review and comment on the proposed legislation. As always, please feel free to reach out to me directly if you have any questions or concern. Sincerely, Derek Gabriel, Commissioner. The Honorable Carla J. Joseph, Capitol Building, P.O. Box 1690, St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands 00804. Greetings, Honorable Senator Carla J. Joseph of the 35th Legislature. My name is Barbara Dalmeda Thompson, a born native and resident of the island of St. John. As an indigenous native, I humbly come before you and your prestigious colleagues with my approval of renaming Route 107 to Kendall E. George Highway. Kendall E. George, as a patriot of the United States of America, as such, enlisted into the military to serve in whatever capacity his country needed him. It was a sad moment in time for our family when we were served the news of his death. Although myself was only 6 years old at the time, it was one of my few childhood memories I still hold dear to me. I have never seen my Aunt Eni cry before, so I wanted to know what made her so sad. She explained that my cousin won't ever walk through these doors again, before his life was taken prematurely from him. She went on to say that he was happy to know that I shared the same birthday with him. My Aunt Ena George, affectionately known as Aunt Eni, was never the same person because she was wounded in her soul by his death. I've never shared this story because my cousin Kendall, God rest his soul, had aspirations as he served his country to return home and serve the people of the Virgin Islands. This reality, sadly, will never achieve. By the simple fact, his countrymen can give back to him by renaming route number 107 to Kendall E. George Highway. That way, his sacrifice will never be forgotten by his beloved St. Johnians. Thank you for allowing me, Barbara Dalmeda Thompson, this time to come before the 35th Legislature to bear my heart and to inform you that we, the people of South St. John, approved of renaming route number 107 in our dear beloved brother, uncle, and cousin and friend, Kendall E. George Highway. Respectfully, Barbara Dalmeda Thompson, St. John native and resident. Madam Chair, that ends the reading for the testimonies.
Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. At this time, we will begin our line of questioning of the testifiers and speak on behalf of this bill. And we will recognize Senator Ray Fonseca for your first 3 minutes. We are only doing one round of 3 minutes.
Thank you so kindly, Madam Chair, and a pleasant good afternoon to all the testifiers. I bring warm greetings to all those listening to the sound of my voice. Madam Chair, this is an easy one. I support Bill 35-109 to honor Kendall Emmanuel George by renaming Route 107 Coral Bay. I read the whole bill, but after just the first page, I know that this here is very, very important, very important. I commend the bill sponsor, my fellow Savanero. In fact, I'm asking to sign on as a co-sponsor. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You see, Kendall was born November 11, 1942. He's a born Saint-Omian, but the family moved to St. John. They grew up there. He would have been 81 years old now. Madam Chair, we have what they call in the military a Gold Star family here before us today, the Sister Geneva and the brother Henry. You know, Gold Star members are to be celebrated and commended and honored. You know, he was laid to rest in 1966 in the Moravian Church Cemetery in Coral Bay, St. John. He was only 24 years old at that time. He was a young man, 24 years old. Kendall gave the ultimate sacrifice. You see, all veterans give service and they give a lot, but some gave all. Kendall is one of them, gave all. He is just like Emil White. They have a statue, a big blue bit stone thing in Waterfront. Emil White. Kendall George is in that class, a rare, rare class of Virgin Islanders that gave the ultimate sacrifice. So I don't know, Bill Sponsor, but in addition to the $10,000, I think we should upkeep and maintain the grave and paint it up. So I know, you know, Soldier, you know, the chairman of the Veterans Affairs, sorry for that nickname, you know, but if the grave site needs to be maintained, then we can do a supplement. I will do an amendment or whatever to upkeep the grave site. Make sure the grave site is kept well, because it is not very often that we get to honor and commend the veteran that gave an ultimate sacrifice. You know, he was laid to rest 57 years ago. This took 57 years. So Henry, his sister Jennifer, 57 years it took for your brother to finally get this recognition, you know, and he deserved it, you know. So rest in peace, proud warrior Kendall George. May the good Lord continue to bless his soul abundantly, and may he rest in peace. I wanted to ask Jennifer, the sister. So he was like 5'7", you know, normal height guy. What do you miss most about your dear brother? Tell me.
Time.
You may proceed,
hear me?
Ms. Paris. Go ahead.
Okay. What I miss, like when I was going to high school, they were home. I had to come down here to go to high school. Therefore, when I go home on the weekends, he would gladly iron my uniforms and things for me to come back to school on Monday. I miss him for that. Other thing is, he always liked to cook and bake and thing, and that was up my alley too, because I was the one in the house who had to do those things. But since I was away at school now, I had a little leeway, and he used to do it. So I miss that. And I miss him being around, because there was so much thing that we had in mind to do as we grow, you know, as we became adults. And when he came back from the service, and it never happened. So I miss that.
Thank you, thank you. So proud, and congratulations to the bill sponsor. Madam Chair, thank you for the time.
And thank you so kindly, Senator Fonseca. I do see Senator Jovan E. James, Vice Chair of this committee, in the chambers in St. Croix. Senator James, a pleasant good day to you. And so, Madam Clerk, kindly mark Senator James. Senator James, kindly mark Senator James present. Senator Alma Francis Heiliger, you're recognized for your 3 minutes.
Good afternoon once again to my colleagues. Good afternoon to the people of this territory. Good afternoon to the testifiers. This is one of those moments when I'm very, very happy that I'm a member of this committee, that we get to see pieces of legislation like this before us. When it comes to Mr. George and just reading and listening to the testifiers and his family, and even looking through the piece of legislation that this individual ultimately gave his life to make sure that we live in a society that I could do stuff like this. I could be who I am. And it was done by a Virgin Islander. And that is a blessed, blessed thing. And I want to talk a little bit to his siblings. When you just spoke a little bit about, getting that little ease when your brother would, iron and do little chores and stuff for that, I said, being the oldest, I wish I had those luxuries, but I did not, okay? So you are very fortunate. But what I want to ask both of you, is there something about your brother that was so impactful that it left such a mark on you that today it's a part of who you are and even how you might share it with others? Is there something you could share with us?
You go ahead.
Well, as I noted in my testimony, all the things that I noted here, his honesty, his integrity, all these things, these were real. There's nothing made up here. It's as solid as a rock. And in terms of dedication, like I said, once he decided on something, he will definitely see it through all the way. And that's why, my stepdad, which is his dad, was in the Navy. And I thought that initially that he would go Navy, but he decided he wanted to be a leatherneck, as they call it in the Marine Corps. Okay? And so he decided that was the Corps for him. That was the place that he felt. And like I said about him feeling that the Marines, they were that close-knit, really stuck together. That's the kind of person that, that's the kind of attitude he had.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm very
So
happy.
everything I mentioned here, solid as a rock.
Excellent.
Okay?
Well, to his cousin, I have a question for you. Do you believe, how do you think he would feel receiving this honor if he were here today?
I think he would be very pleased because it speaks to who he was and what he always tried to tell us and share with us. When it comes to family, he was very family oriented. It was like a knit where the young and the old had respect. And that was something that I don't want the younger generation to ever forget. The young and the old respected him. And that is something that, if anything, actually wear off on me was that. His love for family and having respect for young and old.
Excellent. I just even talking about that, sometimes even in this modern day and age, I question if sometimes we've lost that in dealing especially with some of the young people. Madam Chair, could I just wrap up my statement quickly?
You may proceed to wrap
you.
up, Senator.
When I was listening to how all of this was being presented in respect and honesty, I said, I grew up in a time where certain things were just how they were appropriate, and that's what was expected of us. And I sometimes long for those days. And I hope that, unfortunately, hopefully we have a better chance in trying to reinstill some of these things you guys clearly talked about, your brother, your family member, your friend, so that this future generation could see that there were people like that. This was normal. This was normal. And we expect that type of behavior. And when we make these things into law, that they could now look back and say and be proud of Virgin Islanders, wait, this was a really cool guy. You know, once we create these things, it's a way for them to look back, and maybe it'll help them as they move along in their future as well. So, Madam Chair, thank you for the additional time, and I will vote at the appropriate time.
Thank you so much, Senator Francis Heiliger. I wanted to just follow up on a question surrounding being a Gold Star family and that void that was left in the family by Corporal Kendall George's untimely passing while he served to protect our freedom and protect our nation's freedom, so all of us could be here, because 1966 is a long time ago, and I wasn't even born. I don't think my mother was even looking to conceive me. And some of us who are here, so I know when a sibling has passed, right, untimely, there are aspect of your structure in your family that is so diminished, and you're so challenged with that loss. And you know that if this person and the picture you painted, that is painted here based on the testimony of you, Ms. Paris, you, Mr. Powell, and Mr. Christian, and also Commander Daniel, of the very character of this young man. What is a void there? Because sometimes you would say to yourself, if this person was still here, this and this would not be like this, or this and this would be like this. Can you elaborate on that? Ms. Paris, can you comment on it?
Let's see now. Void. Well, I think the young people that's in the village right now, because we live in a little village, right? They would have, I think he would have had them more intact in the sense that, he would have, he liked to help people, and I'm sure that he would have been more involved in their lives. They seem to lack, that kind of a manly structure nowadays. And so I feel that he would have been very instrumental in those young fellows around where I live now.
Was he a disciplinarian? Now, some people may have a picture about a disciplinarian as a person who really is about the corporal, the beating. But was he one of those persons, if he saw you going astray, he would definitely pull you aside and say, this is the road and the path that you need to take?
Yes, he will. He will.
And so that element, that's what I'm getting at. That element may be something that is missing. Mr. Powell, would you like to elaborate on that?
Well, yes, I would say that because of the way he was, like today, we see a lot of the young people, and we see a lot of killing, for instance, here with these young people killing each other and things of that nature. No, he would definitely, if he saw a young man going in the wrong direction, he'd pull him up, hey, we gotta get this squared away. You cannot go this route. You cannot go this route. And he would give them some guidance in that area. So I can see where he would definitely make an impact in giving that kind of structure to the young people. Yes.
And so, should be our call and our charge to definitely do what we can to try to live on that legacy, no matter what. I know some people are a bit leery and a bit fearful because the young people these days are not like my age group. We are respectful, but some of the young people in the latter generations are not, and nor are their parents. So I suspect your brother would have been fearless.
That's right.
And even he would have not minded if they are a bit combative, because he's a soldier at his core. He would have delved in and jumped right in to address some of the disciplinary issues and provide discipline to some of the bad behaviors and bad characteristics that we're seeing being manifested in our smaller community. At this time, I would like to recognize Senator Samuel Carrion. Senator Carrion, you are recognized for your 3 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. Good afternoon now to you, and good afternoon to the testifiers that are here with us this day. And it's really a good day. I think every day that we can recognize and honor our own, it's a good day. And especially those that have served and giving the maximum sacrifice of their lives for our freedom, for our liberty, for our democracy, I think it's well deserved. So I want to thank the sponsor of the bill for having the foresight and listening to members of the community in making this recognition and naming the road in honor of Mr. Kendall Emanuel George, Corporal Kendall Emanuel George. Mr. Farrell, in reading your testimony and listening, I realized that we had approximately about 17 fallen soldiers that went to the Vietnam War from the Virgin Islands. Is that correct?
I don't know the exact number right off the top of my head, but we do have quite a few that was in this situation, yes.
Quite a few. And what would you say that would make this case in honoring Corporal Kendall Emanuel George different from others, if any? And also would like the family to kind of mention that too. If there's any distinction that you would like to highlight and mention to us.
For me, there's no difference because they all gave or made that ultimate sacrifice. And I definitely welcome the opportunity at any time to honor any person, any veteran, whatever branch of service it is, to honor them at some particular point in time. And we have reached out and we have honored some of them thus far.
Thank you for sharing that. And I want to make a correction. It wasn't your testimony, it was part of the whereas clause within the resolution bill itself that mentions that over 1,600 Virgin Islands served in the Vietnam War, and documented 16 servicemen gave the ultimate sacrifice. So we pay honor and respect to them for their sacrifice and their families also for it. To the family of Corporal Kendall Emanuel George, can you tell me something about him in regards to that you remember, that you cherish a story in his youth or as a children that really highlights and speaks about the type of character and person that he was?
Okay, I'm his brother, and I think it's pretty clear in my testimony what I feel about my brother, and I don't know if do you have a copy of that, Senator? Senator?
Yes, we do have a copy of your testimony, but it's customary for us to ask individuals.
Okay. Well, it's just his total character, the person that he was. It's just the person that he was. He was a person that would give his all, and that's exactly what he did. He gave his life for his country and for these Virgin Islands. And as Director Patrick Farrell said, that in itself is honorable, okay? Giving your life for your country and for your island is something worthwhile. That's what I have to say about it.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and there's no doubt in that giving your life is the ultimate sacrifice. And we thank the family and every serviceman that has served, that are serving for their service. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. No further questions.
Thank you so much, Senator Carrion. Vice Chair, the Honorable Javon James Sr., you're recognized for your 3 minutes.
Greetings to the people of the U.S. Virgin Islands. Thank you, Madam Chair, for the time. Thank you, testifiers, for being here. I vote yes. I was reading page 2 of the resolution, and line 17 through 18 really touched me, where it says, Kendall was killed by enemy fire in the vicinity of, I guess, Chulai, Vietnam, on December 2nd, 1966. So I just want to say to the family and friends of Corporal Kendall Emmanuel George, thank you for sharing him with the military and for giving him that time and space to be able to serve his country. Most of the times when we honor individuals in the legislature, most of them died of natural cause, old age, whatever the case may be. But he died while serving his country, which is honorable. Very honorable. And to the sponsor of this measure, I want to say thank you as well for bringing forward this resolution. It is definitely a no-brainer, like I said, to support this measure. I don't really have any questions because this resolution is straightforward. And it is timely as we just celebrated Veterans Day. And I understand that he died, so that will be Memorial Day. But to all those individuals who serve this country, thank you for your service. And once again, thank you to the family and friends of Corporal Kendall Emmanuel George. Madam Chair, I stand ready to vote yes for this resolution when the time comes. Thank you, testifiers, for being here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vice Chair. Madam Clerk, kindly put 2 minutes. I don't need the whole 3 because I am going to vote in the affirmative, but I do have one burning question I wanted to ask the testifiers outside of the other questions I had asked. Now, this is geared at Commander Daniel. Commander Daniel, and also Mr. Christian, because they are both Moravians. So I know them very well, and I know also, we had a discussion here about the upkeep of the cemetery, where Corporal George is laid to rest. But I know as Moravians, we take great pride in upkeeping our own cemetery. And I'm hoping that that is something that is being done over there at MUS. And maybe both of you could elaborate on that, because we take pride in ensuring that the legacy, the strong legacy of our members who are laid to rest is looking well manicured and are respectable. So can either of you talk about that?
Yeah.
Mr. Christian?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. The cemetery needs work. The graves are taken care of because every time before Easter or whatever, we'll go and clean the graves and make sure they're looking pretty. But there's a section of the cemetery where the wall has come down. And we need to put some strength and some money in the cemetery to make it looking pretty and looking well. That's what I would say. We need some manpower and some money because the part of the wall that's come down needs to be fixed.
Understood. I mean, that is a condition with some of our cemeteries, even the public cemetery, but that's a privately held cemetery. And finally, I wanted to ask when, at least to just have a broader discussion, because I too am a family member of a veteran. And my brother is still alive, thank God. But I remember there was a pause, a long pause in his service when we didn't hear from him. And I cannot imagine how you as a family feel, but I can empathize, because when my brother was missing and we weren't able to make contact, my mother marched down to USO for them to be able to find him and make contact. That's how distressed she was. But I want to close my comments in saying that I'm going to be in support of this measure. I'm very much in support of veterans, not because of my brother being a veteran, and I have a number of family members who have served and upheld our borders and our freedom valiantly, but because also Vietnam veterans hold a special place in my heart. I am happy to see that your brother was one of those veterans, Vietnam veterans, who was volunteered to be enlisted. Some of them at that time, I understand, were drafted. And so that tells me about the mettle of his character, that he saw that he needed to be able to serve his country in a greater way. And I'm not surprised, based on what I heard, read myself of his character, that he was one of those super humans who really wanted to do what he can to serve his country and his community, even coming from Little St. John. So I really salute all of you and the family, especially for your brother, and really empathize with you on his loss. But we give thanks. Thanksgiving is on Thursday, for his life and a long legacy. Senator James, you had a point of information?
Yes, I have a point of information. It's to Director Farrell.
You may proceed,
Good morning, Director.
Senator.
Director Farrell, in the 33rd Legislature of the Virgin Islands, while I served with former Senator Athniel Bobby Thomas, if I'm not mistaken, a measure was brought forward to erect some monument in St. John for those individuals who served in the military or died while serving or something along that line. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. It was not actually a monument, but it was to name the circle in St. John, Veterans Circle.
How is that coming along?
It's right now, I think, in the hands of Public Works and the Council on the Arts for next steps.
The reason why I'm asking that, right, I was having a conversation with my good colleague. How should I describe him? In the minority, I say in Christ, Senator, in the minority, the Spanish one. And we had a conversation, and I remembered when Athniel Bobby Thomas brought that forward. And to the family of the other 15 individuals who died while serving in Vietnam, I was wondering if we can incorporate those 15 other individuals into that veteran circle or something of that nature. Because much respect to the individual who we are recognizing here today, but what about the other 15 lives who served while in Vietnam? So just something for you to think about, okay? Thank you, Madam Chair, for the time.
And thank you so much, Senator James. That's why I like having you as my vice chair, but I was hoping that you would have been over here in St. Thomas. But you brought forward a very important point regarding the veteran circle and for us to try to make it happen. I'm hoping that if anything, Director Farrell, it could happen for the 2024 Memorial Day celebration, where we give thanks and appreciation to our soldiers who have fallen and held the wall for our freedom. Senator Ray Fonseca, you have a point of information? Kindly proceed.
Thank you so kindly, Madam Chair. I just wanted to follow up with the older sister, Jennifer, because you mentioned something that I want for the community to realize. You said that you were living in St. John and you used to come down to St. Thomas to go to school, and you used to spend the whole week down in St. Thomas. So he was ironing your clothes. What kind of iron was it? A regular electric? Can you give us the details of that, please?
Well, coal goose is an iron, and then you put the coal in there and you light it up and you iron. And he ironed my clothes nicely. He was a good housekeeper. He was.
Thank you. A coal goose iron popper. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And Senator Fonseca, you opened up a question because I am so glad you pointed it out that Ms. Paris was actually traveling from St. John. At that time, my Ivana Udorken wasn't built on the east end of St. Thomas. And so you had to go a long way. You know, we have this whole issue with getting a school built in St. John. I mean, I went to classmates. I said it already many a times. I witnessed it firsthand how our young people from St. John, many of my classmates will be sleeping in class until, they're drooling. And, if you're drooling in class and you're sleeping, I mean, you're really tired. Yeah. That's a tiredness. So did he have to also travel? I saw that he went he didn't travel from St. John to go to school in St. Thomas, as Charlotte Amalie had said so in the resolution, and then he transferred after some time to the Manhattan Vocational Technical High School. So what caused that transfer from attending Charlotte Amalie High School, and then your family relocated him and he relocated to New York?
Yeah. Well,
Miss
Miss
Paris, you got to say your name first.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead.
My name is Jennifer Paris. My brother, he came to New York because when I finished in high school, I went to New York too. And he was what it is, sophomore in Charlotte Armory, but he wanted to come to New York, so that's why he came. He left and come. He wanted to go into this vocational tech thing, making, I think it was, machine things. You made spouting and all kinds of things like that, and he wanted to do that.
No, that was me.
And so he was what?
That was me.
All right.
He was a machine. He was in machine technology.
Mr. Howell, you wanted to add to what your sister was saying?
Yes, my brother was in machine technology, which they made machinery. It's machine technology, made little instruments and things. Yeah, so he was into machine technology. I was the one into what she's talking about.
Well, I'm sorry I got it mixed up.
But it's very good that you both are here and he's here present to make sure the record is clear and our memories are clear. As Senator Dwayne M. DeGraff, the sponsor of this legislation, you are recognized for your 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I look at the family and I could see the pride beaming, but I'm also tempted to put on my shades. It's so bright over there, But I think after waiting 57 years, the historical value of each of these legs going forward to making this a reality in law, I think Director Farrell gave a brilliant testimony. I think that's something you should get a copy from him and leave him sign it and date it. No, because I'm saying as a veteran, as the director speaking on behalf of veterans and your brother, I think it was very eloquent to me. So I think you should get that. And Thanksgiving is right around the corner. And I think when I had the chance to go to war and come back home, and it changed my life, and it made me only look at the positive in life and give thanks for life. And I think your brother helped provide, and all veterans who paid that ultimate sacrifice provided that for me and for the people of the world. So to give thanks, I give thanks to the family that stuck it out 57 years in this to try get this done. Are we gonna make it a reality? To you, fine, but to the family, to hold our grief and then to come here and be able to and we taking you back all these years to your brother, and that's priceless. So for me to be a part of it, I give thanks to the family. I give thanks to your brother, and Harry, Mr. Harry Daniel, veteran police. I knew you had a mishap, and to be here now, thank you, because you don't ease up, and that's what we appreciate, and I'd like to say thank you, and we're gonna make it happen. But incidentally, I've had a meeting from last year, Veterans Day, where I met Mr. Daniel and members of Post 131, where we spoke about the Veteran Circle. We had a town hall meeting to address it, and we basically need to separate where there was mention about putting a monument, I think where Government House, where the battery is, for honoring of veterans, that the St. Junior veterans can have their name put on that, and then Veteran Circle will just be to identify the circle as to where it is, so it doesn't cause people to be in the middle of the road trying to take pictures and stuff and any injury. So we did have that meeting, and it's some things that we're moving forward on, and we're going to make that happen. So, Madam Chair, thank you for putting this bill on. I'm asking, since I'm not a member, I'm asking for my colleagues for support on Bill number 35-0109. Thank you for the time, Madam Chair.
And thank you so much, Senator DeGraff. At this time, I will allow all the testifiers to place on the record 30-second closing remarks. We will begin with you, Director Patrick Farrell.
Thank you, Senator. If I may, I'd just like to quickly speak to the point of inquiry made by Senator Javon James, the St. Croix Senator. As it relates to the circle on St. John, Senator Graff just mentioned one of the initiatives that's coming out of my office for doing a Veterans Park on St. John, which will allow for all the names of those veterans to be placed there. So we don't necessarily need to do it at the circle itself. So I just wanted to put that on the record. We'll be seeing some more conversation about that as we get closer to next year's budget. But again, thanks for the opportunity to weigh in and provide my support for a very, very important initiative in my estimation. And I look forward to seeing this, as the good gentleman said, I look forward to seeing this go into the full body and getting full approval. Thank you so much.
And thank you kindly, Director Farrell, for those closing remarks. We'll now recognize Ms. Geneva Paris. You're recognized for your 30 seconds closing remarks.
Okay. Thank you, Senator. I am feeling good about what is happening today because it's been a long time coming. My brother here, he has always been nudging me about coming to help him do whatever, but he's the guy. Let him do the work, eh? So, but I'm happy that it's going to happen, and I pray that all will go well, and that it will happen. Thank you.
And thank you so much, Ms. Paris. Mr. Henry Powell, you're recognized for your 30 seconds closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you, Senator. I really appreciate you chairing this committee and giving us this opportunity. And Senator Graff, I'm thanking you also for thrusting this forward for me. It's something I've been working on for a long time. I've spoken to many people on the way, and I was really pleased when Senator Graff took the bull by the horn and went ahead with it. Thanks to my colleagues, my comrades, and my family also. And I'm just hoping that all will go well and it would be passed. Thank you very much for this.
And thank you so much, Mr. Powell, for painting a great picture of your brother and his character. I mean, we wouldn't have been able to visualize it without you being here to paint that picture. Mr. Alvis Christian Sr., you're recognized for your 30 seconds closing remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank Director Farrell for continuing to press on and making this happen, and my commander for being there every time to make this a reality, and also to the comrades in the 131 group that they hung in there, and finally it's coming to fruition. Thanking Senator DeGraff for his persistence to make sure it happens, and now to you, Madam Chair, and members of the committee, to making sure and giving a favorable commitment that you all will do your best to make sure that this bill pass the entire body. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
And thank you so much, Mr. Christian, for your words also, because that really helped us to understand the mettle of the man who we are posthumously honoring. Last but definitely not least is Commander Harry Daniel. You are recognized for your 30 seconds closing remarks.
I thought you were going to say 30 minutes.
30 seconds closing remarks, Commander.
All right. You know, each island has its own distinct concerns pertaining to our veterans. On St. John, our job is we're trying to, with the American Legion and the support of the Office of Veterans Affairs, is to find things on the island of St. John that we can relate to somebody, some veteran on the island, particular that has done something good for us. Again, this is our beginning with this bill, and then of course through Senator DeGraff's office, we have some other bills that we want to really push through to get done, working on. But again, on behalf of the American Legion Post 131, we say thanks to the committee for supporting this bill. Thanks to Senator DeGraff for really working with us to get it done. Thanks to my colleagues, my legionnaires, and we hope that we can see some honor before Memorial Day next year. We can be dedicating all two of these proposals that are before this body. Thank you.
And thank you so much, Commander Daniel, for always being there, vigilantly serving the members and the veterans and their families in St. John. I commend you highly for that. Do I hear a motion? Senator Alma Francis Heiliger, you're recognized for your motion.
Thank you. I move to offer Bill number 35-0109, an act honoring and commending the late Corporal Kendall Emmanuel George posthumously for his service as a corporal of the United States Marine Corps in the Vietnam War and for making the ultimate sacrifice to preserve democracy and to keep America and the Virgin Islands homeland safe, naming Route 107 from Coral Bay to Limshore Bay, St. John, Kendall Emmanuel George Drive, south, and appropriating $10,000 to the Department of Public Works for signage at the Kendall Emmanuel George Drive and for other related purposes. To be voted on favorably from this committee and forwarded to the Committee on Rules and the Judiciary for further consideration. I so move.
Bill number 35-0109 has been properly moved by Senator Alma Francis Heiliger and seconded by Senator Ray Fonseca. Roll call on Bill number 35-0109.
Senator Samuel Carrion.
Yes.
Senator Carrion, yay. Senator Ray Fonseca.
Yay.
Senator Fonseca, yay. Senator Alma Francis Heiliger.
Yes.
Senator Francis Heiliger, yay. Senator Kenneth L. Gittins. Senator Gittins, absent. Senator Javon E. James Jr., Sr.
Senior, yes.
Senator James Sr., yay. Senator Carla J. Joseph.
Yes, yes.
Senator Joseph, yay. Senator Milton E. Potter. Senator Potter, absent. Madam Chair, you have 5 yeas and 2 absent.
And thank you, Madam Clerk. Bill number 35-0109, an act honoring and commending the late Corporal Kendall Emmanuel George posthumously for his service as a corporal in the United States Marine Corps in the Vietnam War and for making the ultimate sacrifice to preserve democracy and to keep America and his Virgin Islands homeland safe, renaming Route 107 from Coral Bay to Lamashore Bay, St. John, Kendall Emmanuel George Drive South, and appropriating $10,000 to the Department of Public Works for signage at Kendall Emmanuel George Drive and for other related purposes has been properly voted upon in the Committee on Government Operations, Veteran Affairs, and Consumer Protection, and will be forwarded to the Committee on Rules and Judiciary for further action and consideration. At this time, we would like to release all of the testifiers on Bill number 35-0109 from the chambers, if you choose to. We do have one other measure to be considered. Do I hear an amendment? Senator Francis Heiliger, you're recognized for your amendment.
Thank you. I offer amendment number 35-524 to amend bill number 35-0084 offered by Senator Alma Francis Heiliger. Bill number 35-0084 is amended by designating the existing language as subsection A and adding subsection B and C to read as follows. B, the sum of $50,000 is appropriated from the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2024 from the general fund of the Treasury of the Government of the Virgin Islands to the Office of the Lieutenant Governor to implement subsection A, and C, subsection A for this act takes effect 180 days after enactment. I so move.
Amendment has been properly moved and seconded by Senator Ray Fonseca. Any objections? Hearing none, so ordered.
Motion.
Senator Francis Heiliger, you are recognized for your motion.
Thank you. I move to offer bill number 35-0084, an act amending Title 11 Virgin Islands Code, Chapter 21, Section 1213, to allow businesses operating under a trade name to have the option of renewing the trade name every 2, 6, or 10-year intervals, to be voted on favorably in this committee and forwarded to the Committee on Rules and Judiciary for further consideration. I so move. As amended, I so move.
Bill number 35-0084 has been properly moved by Senator Alma Francis Heiliger and seconded by Senator Ray Fonseca. Let me just restate that. Bill number 35-0084 as amended has been properly moved by Senator Francis Heiliger and seconded by Senator Ray Fonseca. Roll call on bill number 35-0084.
Senator Samuel Carrion.
Yes.
Senator Carrion, yay. Senator Ray Fonseca. Yay. Senator Fonseca, yay. Senator Alma Francis Heiliger.
Yes.
Senator Francis Heiliger, yay. Senator Kenneth L. Gittins. Senator Gittins, absent. Senator Javon E. James Sr.
Yes.
Senator James Sr., yay. Senator Carla J. Joseph. Yes. Senator Joseph, yay. Senator Milton E. Potter. Senator Potter, absent. Madam Chair, you have 5 yeas and 2 absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Bill number 35-0084, an act amending Title 11 Virgin Islands Code, Chapter 21, Section 1213, to allow businesses operating under a trade name to have the option of renewing the trade name every 2, 6, or 10 years interval as amended has been favorably approved in the Committee on Veterans Affairs, Committee on Government Operation, Veteran Affairs, and Consumer Protection, and will be forwarded to the Committee on Rules and Judiciary for further consideration and action. Colleagues, we have exhausted all items on today's agenda, and I really want to thank every one of you for being here. I also want to thank the testifiers for being present and testifying on the two measures that we considered and had discussion on. I also want to thank our media staff and the central staff for all that they do behind and around the scenes to make this transition and the transmission of our legislative proceedings flawless. And I also want to thank my staff as well and to wish everyone a wonderful and blessed Thanksgiving. The Committee on Government Operations, Veteran Affairs, and Consumer Protection meeting for Tuesday, November 21st, 2023 is hereby adjourned.